Well, there he is. So I'll call to order the Rosemount City Council regular meeting. Today is Tuesday, May 5th, 2020. If you would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And Logan, are you pulling that up?
I got it.
I pledge
allegiance
to the flag
of
of
the
the
United States of America
and
and to the republic
for
for
which
for
it
which it
stands,
stands,
one
nation
nation,
under
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 God,
God,
indivisible
indivisible,
with
with
liberty and
and
justice for all.
for all.
Thank you. First of all, do we have any additions or corrections to the agenda?
Just one change, Mayor. Item 3A, you received an updated agenda as of yesterday, swapping out Public Works Week, which is actually going to fall in line with our next City Council meeting, and instead declaring this week Public Service Recognition Week. So we'll talk about that in a moment.
Yes, and with that, if there are no other changes, anyone wish to move a motion?
Move the approval of the agenda with the additional item.
I'll second.
We have a motion on the floor. Councilmember Weisenthal, second. Councilmember Fresky, please take the roll.
Weisenthal,
Aye.
Black,
Aye.
Drosty,
Aye.
Essler,
Aye.
Fresky. Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. So we'll now move down to presentations. And the one item before us is Public Service Recognition Week. I'll turn this over to Logan for background, please.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Mayor, you've got a proclamation in front of you tonight that we would love for the council to read. May 3rd through 9th, 2020 has been declared nationally as Public Service Recognition Week. And so certainly all members of your city staff would call themselves public servants. And we just wanted to go ahead and have this proclamation made tonight. And I just wanted to say, I think we have a wonderful team here at the city of Rosemount that city residents should be proud are leading their community and making decisions and informing the council on important decisions on a daily basis. I am so proud to lead this team of public servants and truly call it an honor to work with this team of staff that we have. And so again, just want to thank them for their service, especially during this time. The career of public service is additionally and extra challenging at this time, but hopefully it's also extra rewarding to come on the other side of this pandemic and know that all public servants had a role to play in working to help government help its residents through this. So with that, Mayor, I would ask you to read the proclamation.
Thank you. And the proclamation states, whereas Americans are served every single day by public servants at the federal, state, county, and city level. These unsung heroes do the work that keeps our nation working. And whereas public employees take not only jobs, but oaths. And whereas many public servants, including military personnel, police officers, firefighters, healthcare professionals, and others, risk their lives each day in the service to the people of the United States and around the world. And whereas day in and day out, they provide the diverse services demanded by the American people of their government with efficiency and integrity. And whereas without these public servants at every level, continuity would be impossible in a democracy that regularly changes its leaders and elected officials. Now, therefore, I, William Drosty, Mayor of Rosemount, do hereby proclaim May 3rd through May 9th, 2020 as Public Service Recognition Week in the city of Rosemount. All citizens are encouraged to recognize the accomplishments and contributions of government employees at all levels, meaning federal, state, county, and city. And with that, I want to say, especially during COVID-19, it puts a significant different highlight, especially when you look at the medical profession, healthcare workers besides police and fire. So thank you to everyone out there. And with that, we'll move on to the next item, which is public comment. Anyone wishing to address the council with a question or comment may do so at this time. Erin, can you tell if we have anyone?
We have 9 attendees right now, and
If
it does-
someone would want to speak, they have a little raise their hand at the bottom.
correct. Yep. And at this time, nobody is raising their hands.
I'll wait about 10 more seconds and you're not seeing any? I'm not. So we'll move on to the consent agenda. First of all, are there any items any council member would like to pull?
Actually,
None for me.
Mayor, now that it's been a busy night, we do need to pull item 6E. That item has been asked to go back to the Utility Commission for their input. So I apologize, I didn't mention that at the top of my meeting here, but if we could remove item 6E, that would be wonderful.
Okay, and it'll come back to us after it goes through Utility Commission.
Correct.
So with 6E then, would anyone like to move a motion regarding the consent agenda?
I'll move the consent agenda with item 6E removed, items A through I included. I'll second.
So we have a motion on the floor, Councilmember Weisenthal, second, Councilmember Essler. Any further discussion? And seeing no comments, please take the roll.
Black. Aye. Drosty.
Aye.
Essler.
Aye.
Fresky. Aye. Weisenthal.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0, and that concludes all items under the consent agenda. We do not have public hearings scheduled this evening, and we do not have any unfinished business. So we'll move on to new business, and we have one item before us this evening, a request by Builder Jones for the approval of a planned unit development master development plan with a rezoning and preliminary and final plat at 2016, 23, 18, 23, 22 Bon Air Path. And with that, I'll turn this over to our Community Development Director, Ms. Lindquist.
Mayor, Council, actually, our city planner, Anthony Nemchek, is here to give the presentation.
Well, welcome, Anthony.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This is a request by Builder Jones to develop a single-family home development in the R1 zoning district. I do have a presentation I will pull up here and go through some slides with you. So as you said, this is a planned unit development, master development plan request, as well as preliminary and final plat approval. The council is being asked to approve that PUD that would rezone it from the R1 zoning district to the R1 planned unit development zoning district to allow for some flexibility in the zoning standards for lot size and width and setbacks. This is consistent with a lot of the other developments that we're seeing in that part of the city. And then the developers also asking for the preliminary and final plats to subdivide into 25 single family lots. This would be the first phase of the development. And this portion of the site was actually chosen so that it can be served by existing streets as well as some existing utilities. But as you will see as I continue on, there will be some service brought in from the south along an existing prescriptive right-of-way. The Planning Commission did review this request at its meeting on April 24th, where it held a public hearing to receive comments. Some of the comments received were related to traffic for the most part, as well as a question from one member of the public about assessments on the exception parcel, which I will highlight here on the next slide. And then also some questions about the final alignment of a connection to Bon Air Path. The Planning Commission did vote unanimously to recommend approval. So the site itself is located in between Harmony Village, just south of Bon Air Path, and then to the east of the development site is Biscayne Point North. South a little bit further is Connemara Trail. One of the comments we received, or that were received by the Planning Commission, was that there is a ongoing issue of cut-through traffic on Birchwood Avenue, and I'll kind of talk about that a little bit further along after I present kind of the background on this request. So pulling in a little closer, you can see that the site itself is comprised of 3 parcels. There is an exception parcel located in the center. The developer is still negotiating with that property owner to purchase and create an overall development site. But this first phase of 25 lots is located in the southeast corner and would be connecting to existing dead ends of Birdsong Path and 136th Street West. And even further and closer in, a little bit clearer aerial, one of the requests by the developer through the plan unit development process is some relief from the tree preservation requirements of the zoning ordinance, due to the fact that this first development area is where the bulk of the trees are located on the site. Staff is recommending that that be included with the planned unit development. We're also proposing that we maintain a tally of how many trees have been removed, how many would be required to be replaced, and then finding places in the future to locate those to help meet that requirement further. The developer did provide an overall concept plan. The 25 single-family lots that are currently under review are in the southeast corner of the site and are shaded in yellow. The remainder of the site is simply a concept to show how development may occur throughout the site overall. As you can see, there will be a future connection to Bon Air Path with a subsequent phase of development, and then additional connections south that would ultimately lead to Connemara Trail through when this parcel gets developed in the future. So the main reason this portion of the site was chosen for the initial phase of development is, like I said, due to the fact that there's existing services in these streets, there's existing street connections. So water would be able to be serving these buildings or these lots. Sewer will have to come up, except for these 4 parcels along this cul-de-sac. Sewer will be coming up from the southwest along the prescriptive right-of-way, the former alignment of Biscayne Avenue. The engineering staff did reach out to the city attorney to ensure that there wouldn't be any issues with using that right-of-way for that sort of use along there, and the attorney found no reason why that wouldn't be possible. One thing to note, when staff did initially meet with the developer, one of the concerns that we did hear from the neighbors was that the development east of here was developed to the R1 standards outside of the planned unit development process. So the lots there are a little bit larger than what is being developed, both here where it's proposed, as well as in the Akron, Prestwick Place, Greystone area. So the developer has worked with us to widen the lots along the eastern side so that it's more of a transition to this Doolan Heights neighborhood, as well as provide some additional landscaping along the east side. So one of the conditions of approval that's included in the resolution is that they update their landscape plan to show that that landscaping, buffer landscaping along the east boundary of the development. And because the developer is able to provide sewer service from the west, there was a wider easement here. They have since updated the final plat to further increase the width and size of this lot that's closest to the existing development. So I'll show that on the final plat here in a few slides down. Just a couple examples of some renderings the developer provided of some other home designs that they have. Obviously, it's going to be up to them what ends up getting built there, but the planned unit development agreement does contain the same requirements, that it either contains 3.5 feet of brick or stone wainscoting, a porch that extends along 30% of the front elevation, or that there's no more than 70% lap siding on the front facade. So as I said, this is a planned unit development request. So this table just shows what the developer, what the applicant is requesting for standards related to the lots, and then also some examples. So as you can see, the standard R1 zoning, the minimum lot size is 10,000 square feet. The developer is requesting a minimum lot size of 7,010 square feet. Meadow Ridge and Dunmore are kind of a little bit on either side of that. I should note that the average lot size is closer to 9,000 square feet in this development. The minimum lot width, the standard is 80 feet. The developer is asking for 55 feet. Minimum front yard setback, that's consistent with what we're seeing in the other developments, as well as the side yard setback. The asterisk on the minimum side yard setback is to note that the side yard setback on the sides of the lots that are abutting the existing development must meet the R1 standards, so that there's some more consistency between that existing development and this new proposed development. And the developer has indicated that isn't a problem for them at all. And then again, the maximum lot coverage with this planned unit development is consistent and based on the size of the lot. So the larger the lot, the lower percentage lot coverage allowed. So this is the site plan. There are some changes from this one that the developer is working through with staff. As I said, initially, sewer and water were going to come from the east, but now that sewer can come from the west and southwest, this wide easement here can be removed and allow these to shift over a little more and widen lot 4 of block 1. Sidewalks are provided on one side of the streets, which is consistent with our other developments and ties into the existing sidewalk in the development to the east. The developer is proposing a temporary infiltration basin on the north side of the development. This is just here in place until the development is fully built out, at which time there will be other permanent stormwater systems, stormwater basins and infrastructure installed. Just briefly touching on the grading plan, so you can see that the infiltration basin up here. One thing to note, there is a lot of topography on the site as well as existing trees, and part of the reason the planned unit development process is really made for something like this, or development of this sort, so that the developer is able to maintain or avoid, is able to work with the existing topography and avoid doing a lot of earthwork and changing a lot of what makes that part of the city nice. A tree removal plan, just to show you, most of the trees on the site are located in the southeast corner. And as I said, one of the conditions that's included is that the developer isn't required to meet the tree replacement requirements with this phase, but will be working with staff to ensure that it will be met in future developments as best as possible. And then lastly, the landscape plan here. The condition of approval is that they update it to provide some more landscaping along this eastern parcel or development boundary, similar to what you see along the border with the exception parcel and around the rear of the lots in this cul-de-sac. And then this is the final plat, and this is the most updated version of it that we have. And as you can see, there was a wider easement along here going east-west. That's been removed because there's no longer a need to bring sewer service down here. Instead, there's some stormwater infrastructure over here, but this does allow this lot 4, block 1 to be widened to result in a little bit more, something that's a little bit more consistent or a better transition with the R1 standard lot sizes to the east. So as I said, some of the concerns that came up had to do with traffic, and that there's a lot of cut through traffic between Birdsong. Are you guys able to see the map, the aerial here of the GIS?
Yes.
Okay. So staff is aware that that is a problem, or it's a concern, I should say. The street itself is built to handle the amount of traffic that it's currently seeing, and it wouldn't exceed that with the proposed development. But that doesn't mean that there isn't an issue of cut through traffic moving through there, and maybe at a faster speed than the people living there would like. One thing with the new connection to Bon Air Path that this development will create when it's fully built out will draw some of the people that come up Biscayne, and it'll allow them to get to Bon Air Path instead of cutting over on Connemara and going up Birchwood. And another concern brought up is that there are people from Bella Vista that come down and then go through Birchwood Avenue to get to where they're going. When Autumn Path is extended, this temporary access point will be removed, and the secondary access to Bella Vista, or very well could be the main entrance going forward, depending on how traffic works. But that will feed to the intersection with Autumn Path, which is a direct shot to Connemara Trail there. So that should relieve some of the traffic or some traffic pressure from Birchwood Avenue. We're still working with the traffic safety committee about options for calming traffic along that street. And I think maybe the engineering staff would be better versed to speak to that. But it is something that we are aware of and are not forgetting about.
Mr. Nemchek, I've got the Doolin Heights final plat, relatively final plat up on the screen. Are you speaking to some other?
Sorry.
Oh, yep.
There we go. This screen.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
All right.
yeah, so not to double up on what I just said, but when Autumn Path is built up to here, a lot of the traffic from Bella Vista will be fed right onto Autumn Path to go straight to Connemara Trail instead of winding around to Birchwood to get down to Connemara. And then again, when the development is built out, there will be a future connection down to Biscayne Avenue that will allow traffic to hit Bon Air Path from Connemara directly from that point, because that's a major generator of traffic into these areas too. So, Councilmember Fresky?
So is it safe to say that until phase 2 is built out and we have that connection to Bon Air Path, if you were to look at having 2 cars per household, you're going to have an additional 50 cars traveling on Birdsong Path and 136th Street North?
That's correct. Initially, the traffic will be onto those existing streets. Yeah.
And is there any reason why that connection can't happen with the phase 1? Knowing
So
that the area won't be developed per se, but couldn't they have the road there?
Well, part of the barrier to that is the temporary infiltration basin. They need somewhere to put the stormwater for the time being, and without that exception parcel locked down and able to be included in this, they're not able to develop the rest of the site. I know the developer is in attendance and can maybe speak to that a little bit more, but I know that was the big thing in the planning commission meeting, was that temporary infiltration basin is kind of blocking that northward extension of any roads.
Do we have any timeline of when the future phase would happen?
I would defer to the developer for that question.
Thank you.
Unless the developer's gonna to respond, I've got a couple questions for you.
Sure.
Can you go back to the plat? And I, only because I can't see, I'm really trying to see, but is there any widths? Because looking at, kind of the comps in the area, 60 to 65 foot width, I have no interest in, getting to a point where they would lose a lot here. I'm not interested in that, but right now they're asking for a variance down to 55, which, I mean, obviously the danger is we just keep dropping. So my question is, which lots on here, only because I can't see, which lots on here are less than 60?
So the major reason for that narrower lot width has to do with the cul-de-sacs, because the lot width is measured from the front yard setback. So if you take a 25-foot setback from the front yard, you're going to get a narrower lot width. So lot width doesn't necessarily relate to lot size in every situation. I would say the other most narrow one would be this lot 6.
So
And
fair,
again,
fair
it's
enough.
not one of the smallest ones.
The reason we have the ordinance is so we don't keep making, tighter and tighter and tighter lot sizes. So we're going from 60 and 65. Now we're going to 55. The next developer who comes in is going to want to go from 55 down to 50. And again, I don't have an interest in eliminating lots here. If that's what ends up happening, I don't want to do that. But is there any opportunity where we can make any adjustments that it would keep the width at 60?
Not because I wasn't the engineer that drew up the plans. I don't know where the sacrifices would have to be made with regards to that. I do know that this is part of the planned unit development process, and while it is just that lot standard, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're approving a development that's all at 55 feet.
Yep.
And
Yep,
it's just to allow
Yep.
a better overall development by maintaining some of that existing topography, trees, using existing connections and things like that. I can tell you that we did work with the developer to widen the lots that are adjacent to the existing development where possible. So they have worked with us. I don't know how much more wiggle room there is beyond that without maybe, especially with this lot 6, narrowing it down.
Other than lot 6, which other lots are under 60 feet wide?
These lots here in the cul-de-sac are at the front yard setback are under 60 feet wide. But as you can see, they're also some of the, I guess, not necessarily larger lots, but they're a little roomier towards the back.
Is there any reason, I don't know if it would help or not, but outlot B, is there any reason why we couldn't rely on, use some of outlot B to get more frontage?
I think the idea is it would accommodate 2 more lots if this area down to the south does develop in the future. The developer doesn't own that. I don't know that they've been negotiating with them on that. But I think it's more so that you don't end up with an uneven lot down there.
Yeah, and again, my concern is we keep getting tighter and tighter, and the next one who comes in wants even tighter. And again, I'm just curious if we have any flexibility to adjust any of these to keep it at 60.
Hey, Anthony,
Yeah.
if you're okay, I have the developer, Robert, available right now to speak if you're ready for
Sure.
that.
I think he could speak to this better than I could.
Okay, I'll put him on.
Thank you.
Hi, Robert. You can unmute your mic.
Okay, I have.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Rob Eldridge, and I'm with Builder Jones. My address is 10515 165th Street West in Lakeville. And thank you for taking a look at this for us tonight here through the Zoom meeting. I appreciate you taking the time tonight. Yeah, I can speak to a couple of things if it's okay. And I can't remember which council member it was that I should direct this to, but this was in regards to the lot width and the sizes of the lots. The the presentation that Anthony did was great, and it kind of goes through and gives you the high level of everything, but it's somewhat a little bit misleading because it's talking about just the minimums. You know, yes, we are asking for a minimum 55-foot wide lot, but there are a lot, most of the lots are much bigger than that. If you look at on 136th Street Court West, all of the building pads for every lot on that street, every cul-de-sac lot, 1 through 11, has a 50-foot wide building pad. So if the building pad is 50 feet wide, obviously the lot is significantly larger than 55 feet because we have to have setbacks on each yard.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
And yes, the lot number 6 is narrower. I'm not sure if that's exactly the 55-foot wide one, but I know that was one of our tight lots. And then the cul-de-sac around 136th Street West, lots number 1, 2, 3, and 4, those are narrower as well. I hear you about adding in outlot B into lot number 1, but if you actually look at how setbacks work and how houses are shaped, if you add that piece in, you really don't add any width to that lot to be able to build upon. You're just creating a little bit wider lot, but because of the setbacks and the way that the side yard is kind of coming in on the side of the house, you don't create a bigger building pad. So again, the presentation that Anthony did was great, but it is only showing the minimums. And when in all reality, we actually have, most of our lots are 60 to 65, and we even have a couple that are close to 70 feet wide.
So could you, real quick, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6, only because I can't read it on the screen here. What are the widths of those 5 lots?
Anthony, can you go into, yeah, there, thank you.
Now we're
Because I
talking.
was going to say, I can't zoom it.
So for example, this length, this shows the 3805 of this part. I don't know what the lot width specifically is measured 25 feet back from the front.
So I can speak to those building pads. The building pads that we've designed for those 4 properties are 45 feet wide and up to 48 feet wide at the setback line. So again, when you're 45 feet wide at a setback line, you have 7.5 feet on each side. So you've got another 15 feet. So they're really coming in at 50 feet wide. Some of them may be 55 because 2 is bigger than 1 at that setback, and 4 is much bigger now. We just created a smaller building pad so that we could keep that buffer on the east side. It's kind of the challenge with all cul-de-sac lots. They're very challenging to get you to your R1 80 feet frontage.
One more thing, I have Todd McLuth that's also on, and I don't know if you all can see the chat, but he's has some statistics as well. Okay.
Yep.
And Tom is who?
Todd.
Or Todd?
Anthony?
Todd's the engineer for the developer.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Eldridge, can you speak to the timeline for future phases when we would have that connection to Bon Air Path?
Yeah, so, you know, as a developer and a builder, the sooner the better. Our goal is to come in, build up these 26 homes, and before these 26 are done, to start moving into the 2nd and 3rd phase of the project. It's really tough to put a calendar timeline to it, other than just telling you the motivation is there for us to get in and get it as well. I was on the planning commission meeting as well, and I did, you know, hear the concerns on the traffic and the cut through. You know, the way to turn that around a little bit too is that once our street is in, those neighbors are going to come our way when they're going to the west, because it's going to be closer and quicker to come out and escape up through to the north onto Bon Air. But there is going to be a period of time where these properties will be having to travel to the east. Again, I know that's kind of an ambiguous answer to your question, but it's tough to say. There's so many moving parts with this. We've redrawn this property, you know, about 7 or 8 different times. As we came in and acquired the first parcel at 2316, which is the long one that runs from north to south off of Bon Air. And then we acquired the second parcel, which is right out on Bon Air, that goes east to west. And then we had designed a plan out to work with just those 2. And then the property at the very back end on the south side came to us and said that they were willing to talk. And we're still talking with Mrs. Milner in the middle of it, but don't know where that's going to go. So part of the reason for not going to the north yet is we don't know how that's going to develop out, because like I said, we changed this 6 or 7 times already. You know, the concept is there, the idea is there, but things could be tweaked and changed a little bit. And, you know, we'd really like to know if she wants to move before we press forward up to the north. But again, our goal is to do it as quickly as possible.
Go ahead, and Councilmember Block. Oh, you weren't raised.
I have people leaving my house. I was
Oh,
waiting.
okay. My comment on the lots, this is very low density and I'm fine. Cul-de-sac. In fact, Paul, a little pushback. If you go down to Branch and Farms, the most traffic through the developments down there is the new urban lots that are 7.5 feet on each side with a backloaded garage. And that was also the product that they were initially putting out on Umore. As long as they can get a 40-foot home in here on the lot, it's going to be plenty, in my opinion, from values. I'd also say from a market value, there are a lot of people that will buy a cul-de-sac over the straight street just that it's safer for kids.
I just also want to add that the PUD process is a negotiation process, and I don't know that staff would necessarily support a developer coming in with a development that's all 55-foot lots. Really, it is to allow making a sketch of a site plan work and allowing that flexibility in certain areas to just make a better overall development.
So besides the lot, Councilmember Essler, did you have 2 items concerns or was
Yeah,
it
the
just-
other, yep, the second one was around the trees. And maybe just refresh my understanding there. So obviously looking at the overhead, the overhead photo, there is a lot of trees in this area. And it feels like we're maybe a lot of trust, less verify. And I'm just wondering, you had mentioned that someone's going to be counting. Who's doing the counting and making sure that we're replacing trees? Who's actually doing that?
Well, that would definitely be staff. They did provide a tree inventory, so we do have a count on how many trees are being removed and using the formula on what are required to be replaced. So going forward, for example, in this northwest side here, when this develops, very few trees are going to be removed, so likely there won't be any tree replacement required. Staff will, work with the developer and ensure that they provide additional trees in that area that can account for some of the shortfall in the earlier phases.
Okay, and is the requirement that you replace the same number that you removed? Is that what?
No, developers are allowed to remove up to 25% of the trees that are on the site.
Okay.
After that, they have to replace significant trees, which are defined as trees over 6 inches, at a 1 to 1.5. So half they have to replace of the caliper inches. Any heritage trees that come down, which are the larger trees, larger hardwoods, those do have to be replaced at a 1-to-1 ratio.
Okay. And staff is verifying?
Yeah, staff would be the ones that are verifying, and that would be part of the review process, because since this is just a preliminary plat for this first phase, the subsequent phases would go through a much more rigorous review than what we see in other developments, where a final plat comes through and ends up on the consent agenda without a public hearing.
I asked the question only because in your presentation, it felt like what I heard was it was a lot of trust, like I said, and not as much verify, but it sounds like there is a process that you guys will follow to make sure that we're compliant.
Yeah, yep. And that is a condition that's included in the resolution of approval too. So there is some, at least some sort of teeth behind it that we can fall back on. But yeah, it would be a staff responsibility to ensure going forward, which would be the benefit to us. The quicker this develops, the better.
Okay, all right. I'm comfortable on both fronts. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And thanks for the response as well from the developer.
Any other questions, comments regarding any item before us, development PUD?
All mine were covered by Councilmember Essler and Councilmember Fresky.
I got two things I just want to reiterate. I think, particularly with the concerns about traffic and the cut through, again, just to reiterate, and I think all council is supporting this as well as staff to come to a solution for us at Highway 3 in Bon Air. Presumably that might be a stop and go light there. And the other is to look at, again, the traffic calming opportunities at Birchwood. That straight shot through there is just, it begs for what it is. People are using it for a straight shot there, and I think we owe the neighborhood at least another opportunity to see if we can come up with something there that can minimize some of that traffic that's going to be going through there, even after this development is fully done.
So, Anthony, if I'm not mistaken, you said the safety committee's looking at that street currently, correct?
Yeah, this is something that came up last summer too, and some speed limit signs were installed. I think maybe some further measures may need to be taken to alleviate the concerns, but it is something that is that staff is aware of and is actively discussing.
My point here is to try to come up with something that's a little bit more than signage. This has been ongoing, I know, for as long as I've been on council, and that area has been developed. So as we continue to grow, there is more traffic that's going through there, and I think they've been really good at the residents there understanding at least what we've tried to do within some things, but I think there's probably some more that we should be looking at.
So noted. I guess since the safety committee is looking at this, I would suggest that it's on our work session, potentially the outcome in 2 months, if that's reasonable. Anthony, I don't know if you or Kim.
I would say that's reasonable, Mayor. We'll make sure that happens.
Okay. Just said, so there's a follow-up and we can communicate with the residents as this moves forward. Okay. Any other questions, comments? Hey, Councilmember Fresky.
Well, I do want to make a comment. Well, it's great that we need to move forward with looking at Birchwood as that thoroughway. It's still not going to stop the fact that we're going to be adding 50 cars to go through this quaint neighborhood until we get that connector installed, which we can't give a timeline. So it's two different issues. I just want to make sure, I just want to make that point.
So noted. And if I was on a residential street, do you have the number, Anthony, that like this neighborhood? What's the general street design for traffic?
I think it's 1,000 cars. It's getting closer, but it's not at the threshold even with these additional.
This 50 sounds like a lot, but if you put it on a 12, 14-hour day, and you divide the neighborhood out, it's a reasonable number. But if somebody doesn't like cars, any car is a bad car, I guess. If it's a trip. If you could come up with that data also for our work session going forward, just
Yeah.
for education, what's Connemara, what's Birchwood design, and what's an expectation. So we're, have facts in front of us, easier discussion.
And we do have those numbers for sure.
And I think it is important to look at the feeder roads versus the more, the smaller neighborhoods that wouldn't expect the thoroughfare coming through their neighborhood. I think you got to look at them differently.
Mhm.
Okay. So with that, any other issue or item, time frame is unknown. Hopefully we continue to see growth and don't have some other anomaly within the next year or two. Any other comments?
You ready to move to action?
Go ahead if you would like.
All right, I'll move the first of 5 actions, the motion to adopt a resolution approving the preliminary and final plats for Doolin Heights, subject to conditions.
No, second.
We have a motion, Councilmember Weisenfeld, second, Councilmember Essler. Any discussion? Seeing none, please take the roll.
Drusty,
Aye.
Essler,
Aye.
Fresky,
Nay.
Weisenthal,
Aye.
Black,
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1. Anyone wish to, there's 3 more motions.
I'll make a motion to adopt an ordinance amending ordinance B, City of Rosemount zoning ordinance for Doolin Heights from R1 to R1 PUD low density residential planned unit development.
Second.
We have a motion, Councilmember Block, second, Councilmember Weisenfeld. Any discussion? Seeing none, please take the roll.
Essler,
Aye.
Fresky,
Aye.
Weisenthal,
Aye.
Black,
Aye.
Drusty,
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Anyone wish to move third motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt a resolution approving the planned unit development master development plan subject to conditions.
I'll second.
Got a motion on the floor, Councilmember Essler, second, Councilmember Block. Any discussion? And seeing none, please take the roll.
Fresky,
Nay.
Weisenthal,
Aye.
Black,
Aye.
Drusty,
Aye.
Essler,
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1. And
I'll go ahead and make the fourth.
go ahead.
Correcting, even though I just want to make sure it indicates that there's 5 actions. It's really 4 that are enumerated there, correct?
That's true. The subdivision agreement was the 5th action that got removed, and that'll be coming back to the council on May 19th.
19th.
Okay. So then the fourth, motion to approve the planned unit development master development plan agreement for Doolin Heights and authorize the mayor and city clerk to enter into the agreement.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor, Councilmember Weisenfeld, second, Councilmember Block. Any discussion? And seeing none, please take the roll.
Weisenthal,
Aye.
Black,
Aye.
Drusty,
Aye.
Essler,
Aye.
Fresky,
Nay.
Motion carries 4-1, and that concludes all items on this agenda item and conclude what we have before us on new business. So now we'll move on to announcements, and I'll turn it over our city administrator, Mr. Martin.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. For a staff update tonight, just 2 items. First, of course, as you can imagine, much of staff's focus continues to remain on the COVID-19 pandemic. A couple of updates there. Most importantly, we continue to see health and safety in our first responders, and they are also appropriately stockpiled with personal protective equipment. So continue to feel good there, and have had a couple of staff in those divisions that have had COVID testing done after having some concerns, and have had nobody test positive for COVID. And so that's been great to see on our teams. Secondly, on the COVID item, we are working on the state mandated COVID reopening plan. So businesses, as they reopen, are required to have a COVID safety plan for reopening on file. We've got a draft of that plan pulled together and are working on things such as mask wearing policy. We have plexiglass actually in place already at City Hall, as you've seen in other retail establishments around town. And so we are ready to open as soon as practical, and look forward to doing that. But we continue to serve the public in a number of different capacities we talked about before. Building permits are continuing on and are actually showing real strength in April. Preliminary numbers are in, and our April of 2020 looks stronger on a number of fronts than our April even of 2019. So continue to see strength in the housing market and building permit market there as well. Last item, I think that was my last item on that. The other item, exciting item, as council, I believe, would know, our communications coordinator has retired a few weeks ago, maybe a couple of months ago now almost, and really excited to have a great slate of final candidates coming in this week for final round interviews. And so at the next council meeting, you will have a candidate to approve for the communications coordinator position. So really excited about that, and had a wonderful turnout of candidates, and that person will play an important role in the communication that residents see coming out of City Hall. And we continue to amp that up and look forward to the energy and excitement that this new individual will bring to our team as well. So that is the extent of my updates for tonight. Thanks, Mayor.
So with that, I'll briefly go over the council meeting or calendar. First of all, the drop-in office hours that I hold the first Friday or second Friday of each month will be canceled this Friday on May 8th, but anyone may call me at any time. My phone number 651-280-5630. I'll generally answer it 7 days a week, or any other council member, I think also. The Planning Commission will meet on Tuesday, May 12th at 6:30, and it'll be with a Zoom call. The citywide garage sale on May 14th and 15th is canceled. Oh, and the 16th, it's 3 days. And also the spring cleanup is also canceled on the calendar because of the governor's extension. And I guess most likely we'll try to schedule that, hopefully if it ends on the 18th, soon after that. Also, the Utility Commission will meet on Monday, May 18th at 5:30, and all of these meetings will be via Zoom. And Aaron, if they go online at the city website, there will be a number for them to call into.
Correct.
And then Parks and Recreation Commission will meet on the 18th at 7 p.m. The Environmental Commission will meet on Tuesday, the 19th at 5:30, and the Port and Council meeting also meets on Tuesday, the 19th, with the Port Authority at 6 p.m. and the council meeting at 7 p.m. Any other announcements? And I'm looking, that's, yes, Councilmember Block.
I have a question for Mr. Schultz and City Administrator Logan Martin, and he knows this question is coming. So for those of us that were looking to do a drop-off at the city cleanup, are there other places that our residents, we can send our residents to so that that stuff doesn't continue to pile up?
Dan, you want to take a stab at it? I see that you got yourself in the meeting, so if
Yeah,
you want to...
am I on?
Right.
Yes.
Okay, yes. So like the mayor said, we did have a couple vendors back out of the event. And so we felt it was best just to push it out a little bit. We are going to be looking to reschedule it. We will be posting alternative drop-offs. So for electronics, mattresses, things like that. We will be posting on our website opportunities for people to drop things off. We're also going to be working with Dick Sanitation, Allied Waste, to come up with an opportunity to also drop things off at their location. So yes, we're going to have opportunities for people to, in the meantime, if they're really, really looking to get rid of some stuff, we will try and help them out. One of the things that currently at like the, I forget the name of it off the top of my head, but the place that currently takes our mattresses will have a city rate. If you take your mattress there, you show them your ID, they will give you that city rate, and then they will bill us for whatever that the difference is, like we do at our regular cleanup day.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
No, but Dan, a question, most likely if the governor lifts the stay at home, will we have the scheduled at least in June?
The plan is yes.
Okay, so residents might have to look at stuff for another month.
Potentially.
Their neighbors
Yes.
looking at stuff is what I'm more worried about.
Well, I don't want to promise something that it seems quite likely with things being rolled back that we should be able to move forward then quickly.
Yes.
And our intention is to do it, not to skip it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I understand, but if people just want something now, I wanted to see if we had alternatives.
And then I think Dakota County also saw that in one of the updates, is looking at potentially in 2 weeks opening their facility. They haven't officially announced, but
Yep.
once right now that's closed also.
Yep.
Yes.
So with that, if there are no more add-ins, motion to adjourn and reconvene our work session.
Second.
All in favor, Aaron, please take the roll.
Trustee,
Aye.
Essler. You're muted.
You're muted.
Aye.
Weisenthal,
Aye.
Black,
Aye.
Fresky.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, and meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.